Hi all and welcome into this video. In this video we're going to be reviewing SDK's Gaming iRacing live timing overlays. In this review I'm going to be discussing what it is, how it works, why I wanted it. I'll show it in use around the track, I'll discuss the pros and cons, and then I'll get into my final thoughts. I'm looking forward to showing you guys this. Okay, let's get into it. Okay, what is it? This is pretty simple. It's an overlay for iRacing. Much like you've seen in all my races, I usually run caps. Now, secretly in the background, I've been testing this overlay offering from SDK Gaming. I have to say I'm very impressed. Now, while it offers a lot of the same features, the standing screen, the relative, a fuel calculator, pit stops, various other overlays, it's how it does it, how it lets you customize it, and the sheer gorgeousness of the animations and the low CPU usage that has really turned my head. So we'll get into it now, everything about it. On the support side, I couldn't be happier. Now, I'm not bashing Caps because I spoke to him on Twitter, he helped me out, but as far as documentation, release notes, updates, feature requests, it's thin. Whereas on this, there's manuals, there's YouTube tutorials, there's Discord where people are actually talking and staff members are helping. Extremely fast response times. I have spoke to people on various platforms, but I cannot complain. Getting your question answered, getting a problem fixed, seeing what features are coming, looking at the release notes. The YouTube tutorials are really handy, which, you're on YouTube right now watching me. You get how helpful YouTube can be when setting something up. So support-wise, helps that premium price be justified, because end of the day we're here to race. We're not here to have problems with our overlays and try and work them out ourselves. So there's my thoughts on support. Okay, pros and cons. Some pros for this overlay for sure. Very easy to use, highly customizable to the point of elitism customization if you wish to really delve deep. The animations are slick. CPU usage is a lot less than competitive apps, but without sacrificing those animations. A lot of the other overlays you have to sacrifice to even come close to the CPU usage of this program. I just find it attractive, smooth, low usage, and when you're trying to race, you don't want anything hogging any resources. Some cons. While it is on the more expensive side, I am happy with the gains in features you get, the level of support, the level of documentation, everything, how it installs and how it uses. So there is definitely an air of premium about it. They have a Discord support channel, which I find useful. They've got back to me extremely quick. Another con, which is also a pro. The settings can feel a little overwhelming. Now, as I say, someone like myself, overwhelming settings is exactly what I was after. I can get it feeling just right for my race setup, for my live streams, for everything. But for your average user, it might be, as I say, a little overwhelming. If you're not familiar with CSS, then customizing some of the advanced options is just a case of hitting Google and hoping you get the right result. So while this highly customizable showed up in pros and cons, it's really up to the user and who's using it. But they're my pros and cons thoughts. Okay, so let's take a look at their live HUD in action. I've loaded up a replay from a recent skip event, and the brilliant thing about this overlay software is it can display the data as if it was a live event. So I thought I'd fire that up, show you so I can talk and not concentrate on crashing. Okay. So as you can see, first thing I've fallen in love with is the relative in the bottom right. Clean, concise, big font, customizable, shows the information I want in a very real-time fashion. It's fast. The heading at the top, while that might not seem like a big deal, the battle for 8th, as the race progresses and you form into small little packs, that kind of information is really useful to let you know of the gaggle of cars you're around, what position you're fighting for. Brilliant information. I can't believe I never thought of that kind of information before. Okay, down at the bottom, next to my picture, is just my name and shows the positions moved from the grid, so that should just change up to. There you go, we just got a freebie on the right there. That will actually shift up at the end of the lap and show you my best lap and my last lap, so you can easily keep a track on my relative pace throughout the race. The The top right, we've got the track map, which from my best efforts I could get done with caps, this is very impressive. It's very smooth, colour coordinated to the cars. I think it pretty much matches the primary colour on the car. So you'll notice that theme everywhere on all of the relatives. You can see next to my name in the bottom right, Samson, you've got an orange. And then Glazius in front is black. Nunez in front of him is in green. And as you can see, their cars match that colour. That follows over to the stand-ins and the track map. Very useful. Okay, on to the best part of all this, the stand-ins. It updates very quickly, shows you your iRating gain or losses, so you can see at this point in the race we're sitting at a plus 36, shows everybody's licenses, class, safety rating. The first lap time that you're seeing there is their last lap delta. I've also put on the gap to the leader and the relative interval to the car in front. Obviously, oh here we go, this is my off during the race, avert your eyes. Okay, as you can see from the stand-ins at the top, it updates very quickly. So I've set it to a maximum of 10 cars, but I always want to keep an eye on the front pack. So obviously your settings may vary. I split it so you can see the top 3 and then 3 in front of me and 3 behind me at all times. So I'm always kept up to date, the leader's pace and the relative pace around me. Very useful. Now obviously this is super customizable. We're going to get into that in the next segment, but this is how I wanted it. This is my makeup. I have changed font sizes, levels of zoom, level of opacities. There's thousands of settings, which I'm looking forward to showing you. Now, there you go, at the bottom next to my picture, so there on your screen, you can see my last lap, 121.6, best lap, 113.3. So that keeps up to date during the race. And last but not least, strength of field in the top right. I've put that as a separate overlay. So 1.7k for this race, and that will stay there throughout the race. Now, I am really happy with this. I couldn't be more happy. You get a lap counter in the top left, race duration in time there. It's very clean, very concise, and my most impressive thing is how quickly everything updates. That's really what you want from an overlay. You aren't driving for your overlays just should be there to inform you of anything that's happening. Now, I appreciate all the colour codings. You can see the leader just set a fastest lap, it lights up purple. There's lots of sliding animations to grab your attention when you need it. This isn't overwhelming. I am very impressed, very, very impressed. Okay, in the next segment we will talk customization. Okay, customization. Presented in front of you is the live timing app. It's the separate portion to the HUD. Now, as you can see, you could overlay this information on a separate screen because this is your full featured fat version of everything that's happening on track. So if you had a fourth monitor, for example, if you're rocking a triple monitor setup like myself, you might have this top middle. It lets you see, obviously, sector times, best lap, last lap, the gap, top speed down the stray, incident points, whether they've pitted, flags they're receiving, positions gained from the start, full fat. It's a bit much to obviously have this kind of information on any of your primary screens while racing, so this is why that's there. This is fantastic. If you're watching a replay or you're watching somebody else race and you're in the session and you're spectating, this kind of information just makes it all that more fun to watch. But this is always also where the customizations live. So you've got these grab handles here, the bottom, the right, and on the left. So let's bring in the one from the right. And if you're frightened at first, don't be. I was a bit taken aback when I saw how many settings. But this is brilliant because this lets you make it your own. And this is only brushing the surface of the customizations they offer. So let's quickly go through a few of the boxes and explain what I've learned from my time using it. First up, this big blue box. This is the timing tower, or what I call the stand-ins, the top left in my overlay. First of all, you can obviously choose to hide and show it. You can choose how to display their name. So I use full name, but you could display just their last name with abbreviated for forename. You could do initials like old school F1. You can pick the 3 letters. It's fully featured offering there. Here is the main guts of it. So each box here dictates to how far along on the stand-ins table, what column you are editing. So I've set mine as column 1 gain, column 2 gap, column 3 show the interval, column 4 their iRating, column 5 their license and safety rating all in one. Next column their last lap time, which I think is useful. And then I have chose no data in the last one. But obviously you've got a whole heap of choices there. I'm not doing many races where I'm doing pit stops at the moment, so that kind of information might be useful to know when someone's pitted or how many times they've pitted, etc. So that might be useful. Session state. This is the clock in the top left, whether you're in practice, race, qualifying, time trial, so it's quite nice to have. Class display. I use this to display the strength of field in the top right, but you can choose it to show the best lap of the race, lead information, and obviously most of these boxes have a hide and show option. Setup cover. This is great if you're streaming and you're using a paid setup from someone. This will automatically cover it while you're streaming. Perfect. Radio, much like the iRacing interface, so you can see, radio information. Driver details. This is the box down the bottom next to my feed where you see myself. I show lap time, so my best lap time and my last lap time. You can show the team if you were in a team race. The team name will be underneath. You can choose to show and hide a photo of yourself. Obviously, I don't do that because you get to see a video of me permanently. It might be a bit much. Pit lane information. This is brilliant. It's like a horizontal ticker box along the bottom that shows you pit lane information of guys pitting around you. Come up to here, display mode. So the display mode you've seen is race. It's the brunt of it, everything you want to see from standings to relative to your track map. But you can also show a nice results screen, the grid from qualifying. Race info is a brilliant screen. Actually, I'll show you that now. Move this out of the way. As you can see, it can literally just give you an overlook of the race event. It's something best used for obviously for streamers. Before a race, you can customize all the details that you'd want to show: the track, the weather, wind speed, direction. You can fill out information here. So title test, and it changes in real time. So it's great for streamers to put on a nice cover before the race. You can customize the logos, the domain name. It's a brilliant idea, like something I would not have thought of, so kudos to them. Show and hide the logo. Out the box, this shows their logo, but once again, that can be customized. I'll show you all those settings in a moment. Weather screen. It's quite literally a little weather overlay box that shows you current temperature. It shows you the time. It can show you cloud coverage. It's really good. Driver inputs is very impressive. It's much like the iRacing one with the steering wheel, throttle, brake and clutch inputs, but it also shows a small graph of the inputs over time. Let me show you that now. Okay, as you can see here, down the bottom you can see throttle input, brake input and steering input, and you get a graph to show the levels I'm at certain times. So this will update in real time. I'll show you now. I'll just give that a second to play through. Now obviously this is handy for a streamer to let the viewers get a precise feel for where you're at on the pedal input, but it's not that bad for yourself to look at. Now whether you could do that in a race, it depends on the race class and the type of race, I suppose, how much you'd use this during a race, but a welcome addition nevertheless. Okay, dashboard shows you the gear you're in, the speed you're going, and there's a RPM bar to help decide when to change gear if that's out of view on the car you're running currently. Okay, battle box. I really like this. I spent a lot of time customizing this. This is the relative screen. You got 3 choices here. Relative lap, which is the one I'm running, that closely resembles the iRacing one on how they do it. Drivers in front of you, drivers behind you, you're in the middle, and the relative time and distance between. Position is also a really good one, but it excludes lapped cars, cars that are out of your proximity for, let's say, a close group of yourselves, which can actually be customized down here. How far in front and how far behind, how many at max you'd want to display, and then decimals after the 0, after the number for distance, how far they're apart. Also, what's the other one? Relative. This one's only displayed in race, so you can't use this one in practice or time trials. But it shows it's much like position, but it shows whether they're up or down in the relative rather than their relative distance is what I took from it. Track map, quite literally the thing we have in the top right. You can choose whether to show position. That is what I use. Initials, car number, 3 letters to summarize their name, which is actually not a bad one. Obviously the hide option, so I do position. You can show their pit out position. You can filter drivers. You can choose the update. Now, I was just experimenting with this. I think the default's 60. Just how smooth it's going to be. Obviously, it does impact your CPU usage a little, but I found 15 quite nice, but your mileage may vary. Pit strategy I haven't yet used, but it looks fully featured and brilliant. Like, it's something I need to dive deep more into. Time delta, sectors, lap history. These are lap history down here. It shows the past 4 laps or 5 laps if you customize it, and the driver you're closest to and the compared lap time. Time delta, that just shows the 2 closest drivers between you and one other, customized here, and your relative gap between the 2. Sectors, very clever. The closest X drivers customized here, per sector, the difference and the gains between you. So not just an over a lap, which is good for during the race finding maybe a sector where you're slower than someone, because apart from staring at your relative or just intuitively picking up based on distance, it can be quite difficult to spot that piece of information. So kudos to them. That's once again a good empowerment. Fuel calculator. Once again, much like most fuel calculators, cannot be without. Now, I know everybody's picky about what fuel calculator run, but I have had nothing but good results with this in my testing. Also, I've noticed there's a conservative option, which is nice. Really good. Whether you want it to be based on laps, time, both, or just the automatic, which I've been using, it's just a very simple overlay. How many laps you've done, how long your fuel's going to last, lap to pit. Brilliant out the box. Now, there's a whole host of more settings down here in the green. I have to say, out of the box, it's been brilliant. The only thing I changed was here, the initial settings. I changed the recent replay visual you saw to replay file, because if it's set to live session, you don't get any information, because that's for you driving. For showing a replay, which I did earlier, you tick this and it almost tricks the software into believing this is a race that is currently happening. So brilliant. Okay, let's hide some of that information and deep dive a bit more into the settings with this hamburger menu here. Now, once again, it can be a little overwhelming. Most of these settings I haven't changed. I've read up to see if there's any customizing I want, but the big place I've been customizing is come down to overlay, style overrides, and you get this. If you're familiar with CSS, winner. If you're not, unfortunately, you can make do by just reading the documentation on their site. Each box, let me show you. So for example, class display, this little question mark here, click that, well documented, shows you some basic CSS to get started if you wish to customize it. So for example, let's look at something I've customized quite heavily. The stand-ins, for example, I changed these, like the zoom perspective. I brought that down to make it smaller. I customized the top. Whereas before in caps, I was running everything to the edge of the screen. I found with this software, it's slick, very professional looking. So I brought everything away and created almost a border around all my overlays. And I've been happy with that. I've customized the position of the fuel overlay, the driver details, the track map I customized. There's a Twitch chat integration. I think I missed that. There you go. I don't use Twitch, but I'm sure that's brilliant, like everything else they've been doing. Weather. So you can customize the position, the opacity. There was somewhere here where I quite literally made, the strength of field in the top right. I made the opacity 55%, so it's more see-through. I customized that top right position because I wanted the strength of field to actually touch the top right because I was running that room in the top right with the track map. So this is very empowering. You can customize the logo. You don't have to use their logo. And they have well documented it, and their site is flooded with information on how, in a basic sense, to get going. But all you really want to do, all that you're trying to achieve out of this CSS, is make it look good for you in your situation, depending on how many screens you've got. If you want your fuel calculator off screen, much like myself, and the weather screen, there's no one size fit all. These settings are done for you. Okay, I think that's all for settings. As I say, the documentation's heavy. Apologies if I missed everything. It is overwhelming. It's a pro and it's a con. The con being it's a little bit frightening. The pro is obviously if you're willing to invest time, you can make it your own. Full featured. This has probably been my most impressive thing about it, is the fact I can make it my own. So my hat goes off to them. Okay, my final thoughts on the overlay. Premium price, sure, around 100 in your currency with tax for a premium product with high level support, plenty of documentation, an extremely professional look that I class as the missing overlays for iRacing. I'm going to be using it going forward in my videos from now on, and down in the description there's a 10% coupon code for you guys to help bring down that price. They were nice enough to provide. There's a free trial available as well on their website to make sure you're getting your money's worth and it works for your situation. But no, seriously guys, I wholeheartedly recommend this product, and it's been brilliant for me. Alright, thank you very much, and as usual guys, I'll catch you in the next one.